Welcome everybody to CivicSciTV. As usual, my name is Fanuel, and I'm super excited to be joined today by Dr. Sharon Lu. Dr. Lu, hi. Dr. Lu is a strategy designer from Worldview Studio, and we're gonna take a peek into what they do and what she does in her role. But briefly, they are focusing on connecting science and society through strategy, design, and media. Now, there's a lot to unpack in there. Sharon, please tell us more. What is it that you do and what does your organization do overall?
Yeah, so our organization overall has two areas of work. The first area is really making research applicable and usable in people's daily lives. And the other area of work is really understanding more about the public interest around science and using that to inform some of the research and as well as science engagement activities that we can do in this world at large. So those are the two areas of work, and my personal focus, we are a small company, so I kind of help out in all aspects in some ways, but my personal focus is on strategy, where I work with science organizations or foundations to understand what do you want to achieve right now and how do you get there, and really building that strategic plan, and also really being strategic about the communication with the different stakeholders and how you bring different stakeholders together.
I see. And one of the things I see here that you guys focus on is impact assessments and thinking through that modality. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I think when one thinks about impact and evaluating your impact, you really have to start with a solid theory of change or logic model, and really being clear on what the outcomes you want to achieve are. And I would add that for evaluation, it's not only evaluating your outcome, but evaluating your process as well. So there are really two questions here. One is, are we making the desired difference in the world? And that's your evaluation on the outcome. And then on the other hand, you also have the question of how well are we actually carrying out our activities? And that's really around the process. And obviously within this whole evaluation and impact valuation space, you really have to be clear on what your values are as well. That should be embedded throughout.
And where do you see people going wrong the most as they try to do this part?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, first of all, people tend to jump directly to solutions in terms of specific activities, and they're kind of locked in to a specific set of activities, and they kind of assume that it will definitely have the impact that they envision. Or there's also, on the other hand, people envision an impact, but it's really not specific enough to have measurable outcomes. And so really being clear on not just okay, we want to help people with X. It's okay, who are you trying to help? Who are you trying to reach? And by X, maybe that's something big like being social change maker or something like that. But what does being a social maker change maker mean to you? Is that an attitude change? Is that they will be able to do something differently or do something more? Just really being specific about your goals is really important.
And I think that's specific, right? You gotta get in there deep enough. And also part of what you guys are doing is thinking about conducting landscape analyses, audience research. You mentioned briefly earlier about the types of clients that you've engaged with. Tell us more about who they are, who they tend to be.
Yeah. So there are two different groups of people to think about. There are people who are your clients, and then there are people who are your actual audience. So the clients might engage you to do some work around a general interdisciplinary topic, but the product and the services that you create will not target the client. It will be targeting a specific audience. And so it's really important to identify who your audience is. And that's another mistake that a lot of people really kind of don't think about, is they want to build something, but they forget who are you building this for? And is this something they really want? Would they really engage with this? Is this how they currently engage within this topic? So those are questions to definitely think about when you're trying to build something.
Can you tell us about one project right now that you're working on with the client?
Sure. So right now, one of my projects, because again, my focus is more on strategy. We are working with a community of research scholars and thinking about how this community centered around this specific interdisciplinary scientific topic can really have impact both within and beyond the academy. And so we're looking at potential partnerships as well as considering the community's interests and really see where they can intersect, but also thinking more broadly, like how can we expand the community and connect them to other scholars and other people interested in this topic.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at your website right now, which, by the way, everybody, you can click below and learn more about what they do. It's quite diverse in terms of your clientele, past projects, right? From the Templeton World Charity Foundation to Stanford Science of Decision Making, and it's actually quite diverse. A lot of lessons to be learned in there.
Yeah.
Where do you see the field going, especially as you are out there working with clients through this public engagement side of things? How are things moving forward in the next 5-10 years? Where do you see things moving?
Yeah, I mean, our hope really as a company is that people can really understand the audience-led approach in doing science engagement, but just doing a lot of different activities in general. But especially in science, when sort of counterintuitively, a lot of times in science research, we are focused on hypotheses and we go from there. But when we go outside of our research topic, we have a tendency to just rely on our intuition at times. And while our intuitions may be right, it's important to also build hypotheses around our intuition and to test these hypotheses. So again, like, what do we know about our audience, or what we think we know about the audience may not be true. So what are your hypotheses around that, and how can you test those hypotheses? And really understanding it's not just a process, but really like being focused on the audience and the public, like what are they interested in, what keeps them up at night, and what can we really do to help connect their interests and needs with what we're doing in science.
I love that. Audience first.
Yes.
Right. Audience first. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick lightning round. Okay. You ready?
Okay.
All right. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Okay, so favorite metric.
Oh God, diversity.
Okay, and actually, what is the quantification factor there? Like number of people or?
Yeah, well, it's really dependent on your specific goal, but you can think about people you're engaged with, like where are they from, what type of perspectives do they bring, or even the topic that you're looking at, like what is the background on this topic, and could we, expand our thinking around that a little more.
Okay, average time per project that you work on, typically?
Oh God. That's so variable. I'm just gonna say 1 year.
1 year. Okay. Sometimes, it could be curious of the range there.
Yeah.
What's your favorite hobby?
Talking to people like you.
Here we are. In fact, fun fact, this is where I met Sharon at a Science Sandbox event in New York City. And so
shout out Simon's Foundation.
yes, shout out Simon's Foundation, and the power of networking, right?
Yes.
Of course. Let's see, and another one. What's the future for you? What are the next steps as you chart your own career path?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy my current work. As I often, when people ask me this question, like I'm not focused on any specific topic. I just have this overall goal of trying to promote empathy and trying to increase the voices, elevate the voices and the power of those who are underserved and underrepresented. And I think that could be achieved in many different fields in many different ways. So I'm open to a lot of different possibilities.
I think there's no better place to finish our conversation there. Sharon, this was wonderful. We need to have you back for sure. This was more of a teaser.
Oh, this is so fantastic what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So everybody, join us next time.